So, having hit 300 videos in triumphant style, it's time for video number 301. And whilst most people at Homestead in the final round of this year's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series were saying goodbye to Jeff Gordon, it reminded me of when in 2013 I had to say thank you, Jeff, to another Jeff. His name, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? Welcome to video number 301 on Team Bomber Sports. It's on box. Yeah, that's about as much as you need to know about the box. There's no dents or scratches. And this thing got smashed to pieces. Zingy, that's a good word. Oh, excuse me. It's sloppy. I've seen paper customs on YouTube done better than this. Yes, this is the return of Diecast Review Monday in association with Race Gear UK. And you can see all the back along here. A lot of very nice diecasts they may have supplied me for the upcoming Great Britain 500 and Turn 200 on the Manchester Raceway. Very excited about that because basically, if there's been no videos the last couple of weeks, I've been basically locked in my room with saws and hammers and paint and all sorts of stuff, building that track and making this ready to try and get you some races before Christmas on this brand new track that I'm really stoked for. Diecast reviews will come back, and here's a good way to relaunch them. As I say, in this year, you know, we've seen the farewell tour for Jeff Gordon, an absolute legend, and in fact, shameless plug, we will be dealing with one of his final cars in a few weeks' time. Yes, I got the rainbow car. It looks freaking amazing. So he'll be on one of the future reviews. He'll be in the Great Britain 500 as well. That will be his last ever race, honest. But yeah, as I say, a couple of years ago, I had a very similar experience in terms of dealing with a favourite driver retiring. You know, Jeff Gordon is a favourite driver for millions of people in NASCAR. Just one of the most popular drivers and one of the greatest drivers of all time. So it's absolutely understandable. For me, I was saying thank you, Jeff, to someone different in 2013. By the end of 2013, and it was nowhere near as much fanfare. But you know, I'm not saying that in a sort of bitter way, like, oh, my favourite driver didn't get the send-off like that guy. Like some people were really bitter about Jeff Gordon this year. But it was still emotional times because this was the guy who I became a fan of right from the start of my time watching NASCAR. And, you know, I still am now. And it's great to hear him on commentary now. And he's still around. It's quite nice. So the man in question, of course, if it wasn't completely obvious from all these diecasts in front of you, Mr. Jeff Burton. So, I've got 5 of his 164 diecasts. This one at the back is my 124 diecast that I have of his. So let's go through them all one by one, shall we? Now this, no joke, is one of the first NASCAR diecasts I ever bought in my life. And that's no exaggeration at all. You see, my local pound store, it was called Discount City, I think it was like a pound store, a budget shop for cheap stuff. They stocked a range, and this must have been about 2000, 2001, 2002 maybe, just when I'd started first watching NASCAR. Because my first race, I remember it very clearly, was the 2001 Food City 500. Won, ironically, by Elliott Sadler and the Wood Brothers, who are coming back full-time next year, and I'm super hyped about that. But this was one of the first diecasts I got because the local Discount City thing was stocking a random range of the Hot Wheels 1998 NASCAR diecasts. It was just, they stocked the whole lot. And they were literally, because they just treated them like Hot Wheels cars. You know, they're NASCAR Hot Wheels cars, whatever. So they were going at like 75p a pop. You know, even less than regular Hot Wheels cars. And these are some of the nicest diecasts ever. They have rubber tyres, they have, you know, obviously not much on the window net detail, but they look good. And they had, you see here, there's tyre marks on it, and on this side there's, you know, markings as if it scraped the wall in the race. Some of these cars were really well detailed. They look great. And I have pretty much the whole range. Still, I got them, all of them. And my uncle got them all as well, as a huge NASCAR fan himself. So this was one of the very first. This was, I think, in the very first batch of ones I got. And to be honest with you, I just liked the look of it. I thought it was really cool. I mean, look at it. It's black and it's pink and it's got the silver things on it. And it's Exide. And it's 99. It just looks really cool. It really stood out from the range of cars that I got at the time. And in amongst my pushing NASCAR diecasts around the carpet championships that I used to do, seriously, I used to get really into it. I'd keep championship tables. I'd do the lot. I actually think I did a better version of the NASCAR, the real life point system that they use by awarding, I think instead of 180 or 175 points for a winner, I awarded 200, and then the rest of the points were the same. And let me tell you now, Brian France, didn't need no playoffs to ensure close points finishes. And he may also have been champion a few times. Just saying. But yeah, I really liked this diecast, and I was like, who tries this thing? And of course, they had little hero card type things with these cards. They're a bit like how the IndyCar diecasts have now. They have that little card with them. And it was Jeff Burton, and I was like, well, who's this guy? You know, it's not Jeff Gordon, the other guy with a pretty colourful... Who's this Jeff Burton guy? And I just sort of... You know, it's a thing, some people get mocked for it, you know, oh, do you just like him because you like your car? That's how I got to know this guy. That's how I became a Jeff Burton fan. I just thought, this guy's got a really cool car, I think I'll pull for him. And, you know, in the early days, I like quite a few drivers. I kind of go through phases of having one or two real favourites, but sort of having other guys I like. Like in those early days, I also liked Tony Stewart, Johnny Benson, you know, Sterling Marlin. That was my dad's favourite driver. So Bobby Labonte was my uncle's favourite. So I had all these different favourite drivers, but Jeff Burton was the consistent. And unfortunately, I think I chose a bit of a bad time to become a Jeff Burton fan, because from 2002 through to about 2005, he kind of wasn't very good. It was kind of the first slump of his career. He didn't really have a good few years over there. It was in the Citgo 99 car, the white, blue and red car. And he wasn't quite as good in those years, and it kind of came to a head in 2004 when he left and joined Richard Childress Racing. Then we have this. This is his 2007 Cingular wireless Chevrolet for RCR. This was a couple of years after he'd moved over there. And this was the... I believe second or third Jeff Burton diecast I ever got, because I can't remember if I got this one before or after I got his 2009 car, because that was when I really got back into NASCAR after basically kind of ignoring a lot of the 2008 season. And this car, you know, means a lot to me. It means a lot specifically because this is the car from the era... I mean, it's a 2007 car, so it's kind of close enough, but this always reminds me of the car that won the Dover 400 in 2006, which was the first ever race that I saw Jeff Burton win. I say live, I mean it was as good as live for me, because back in those days I had to rely on my uncle taping the races for me and then sending me the tapes, the VHS tapes afterwards, and I'd watch them about 3 or 4 days after, or maybe a couple of weeks. But because I was, you know, 13, 14 at the time, didn't really have much internet. I didn't actively get sponsors, not sponsors, what am I on about? Spoilers. You know, this was before Facebook, you know, no one on MySpace was talking about NASCAR at the time. So I kind of, it didn't matter really. I didn't really get many spoilers, so I could kind of just watch the race 4 days later as, you know, as whenever I wanted, and it wouldn't be ruined for me. So I remember watching that Dover 400 in 2006 where he fought with Matt Kenseth late in the race. They had a great battle going, and I remember just sat on the end of my bed, literally like moving closer and closer to the TV as if to say, you know, it was almost like, hold on a minute, I might actually see Jeff Burton win a race here, because I've been watching it for 4 or 5 years at this point, and you know, he won a race or two in 2001, but I missed those, which is really annoying. I was kind of just getting into the sport then, and I was having to rely on the odd Eurosport broadcast with Ben Edwards and Carlton Kirby as the English commentators on it. They tried dubbing English commentators over it, and in the end they just went, you know what, let's just leave the original American commentators on there because they know more about what they're talking about. But I'd gone that long just seeing, you know, Jeff Burton do well, you know, do very well, but, you know, generally around 2003-04, that was kind of more of a slump in his career. He didn't really do too well. He switched over to RCR in 2004. Then by 2005, he came out with the Cingular Chevrolet, the 31, and kind of had a bit of a new lease on life. He was okay in 2005. 2006, he was a lot better. He qualified for the chase, and then that race at Dover, it was the win. When he won that race, it not only put him to the point lead, but I think I kind of exploded a bit. May have jumped around my room cheering quite a bit, going absolutely ballistic. It was an amazing moment because, you know, I just was sitting there wondering, you know, I wasn't really used to backing, like I generally back underdogs anyway, but I wasn't really, like I'm not one of these, you know, in most sport I don't tend to back the most winning drivers, you know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know, I wasn't, my main driver wasn't a Jimmy Johnson or a Jeff Gordon or something, you know, where you expect them to win 3, 4, 5, 6, however many races in a season, you know. So for me as a Jeff Burton fan, I'd had to wait. I'd had to wait quite a while for that moment. And when it came, boy, it felt good. It was so wonderful. I think there's something special about seeing your driver's first, or seeing your driver win for the first time since you've become a fan of theirs. You know, even if it's not their first race win in their career, or Sprint Cup win, I should say, there's still something incredibly special about it. And for me, it just means the world to me seeing that. And I want to get a copy of it somewhere on high quality tape or you know, HD file or something, because the race is one of my favourites ever, and it's kind of obvious as to why, really. And he actually took the point lead after that race, so he was back in championship contention for the first time since the late 1990s. into the early 2000s, but unfortunately he had a bad run or two at Martinsville at Talladega, and that kind of put him out of it. And in the end, that was the first of Jimmy Johnson's many, many titles. So, you know, well deserved on that front, but it was great to see Jeff Burton back in contention again. And then in 2007, he won at Texas. Not in this car. He was in the Prilosec OTC, the big purple car, which was all sorts of garish and colourful. It looked fantastic, but he won that race as well. And then in 2008, he won 2 races, actually, at Bristol and then at Texas in the fall, which was, again, just... It was a sort of second lease on life. So it took a while, but then it was a nice run of seeing Jeff Burton win quite a few races that year. So this is your standard action diecast from the time, and it's one of my favourites, not just because it's a Jeff Burton diecast, but because just look how colourful it is. The colour just looks magnificent. It jumps right at you. It looks wonderful. But then by the end of 2008, Sprint Nextel threw a bit of a paddy about having Cingular on the car or any other phone companies, so they had to get rid of them, and in came this. Yes, this was the first of his cars with the Caterpillar sponsorship on, coming across from Bill Davis Racing, who I was associated, ironically, with his older brother Ward Burton, and then Dave Blaney and Scott Wimmer and the other guys who drove that car. This is his 2009 car. You see the first of the COT cars that I got. Because I kind of dipped away from NASCAR in 2008. I had other things going on in my life, and I kind of had lost interest to it. I think the COT had just put me off so much. I was just like, what is this monstrosity? And then I came back to it in 2009, which is funny. It's very similar to how I came back after going away in 2012, and then I came back for 2013. And even though 2009 was not a very good season at all, as was 2013, I still just got back into NASCAR, and I just enjoyed it from there. And that was my first year on YouTube as part of the sort of diecast community and doing diecast reviews and stop motions. And I started really collecting diecasts again and had a kind of consistent source of them. And I remember I spent all my various little bits of pocket money that I got. And I remember coming home from sixth form and college most weeks, and I'd have packs of diecasts coming in from America or British sellers here. I think I ordered quite a few from Race Gear UK before I even really knew who they were. To me, they were just another diecast store there. Now they are some of my biggest supporters here on Team Bomber Sports, which is fantastic. So this is Jeff Burton's 2009 car. Not so much success in 09 for him, sadly, but it's an interesting looking car. Once I'm not whacking the tripod, it's a pretty interesting looking car, but it kind of looks a bit flat to me. But it has this interesting tracked look on the side of it. You can just see there. And there's the moulded wing on the back. This is the one car I have from where they had the rear wing on it, which really divided fans' attention. And really, that's kind of how his car stayed until the end. Because then you have... I kind of got them on alternates every 2 years. Because I didn't get diecasts in 2010 because they were... there was no point because I was getting more diecasts with the wing. And they wouldn't have the wing on anymore because they were transitioning to this rear spoiler, which you can see on this one. This is his 2011 car. Again, there it is. It's very good. And if I remember rightly, his last ever race victory in Sprint Cup was in one of the Gatorade Duel races, and I think it was in 2011. It was in this car. And I believe, if I remember rightly, he had Clint Boyer pushing him, I think, to his final race. And that was a final race win, I should say, and that was a great moment. This was also a moment... This also gave me a very heartbreaking moment as a Jeff Burton fan, where Clint Boyer stole a win from him at Talladega. Well, he didn't steal him, he beat him back to the line. It was a great finish. Just bloody unfortunate that it involved Jeff Burton on the losing end of it. But it was one of those great, people complain sometimes about the tandem era of plate racing, but, you can't deny that a lot of times it produced some amazing racing in, patches. Even if it didn't produce big packs, it produced some awesome racing, like, the 4x4 finish at the Spring Talladega race that year, where Jimmy Johnson beat, there were 4 groups of 2, 4 pairs of cars going across the line 4 wide. It just looked outrageous. And then you had that great finish in the 4, and you had Kevin Harvick beating Jamie McMurray by a nose in 2010. All these great moments. So that was a happy era, and that was where I kind of came back to YouTube and got back into diecast collecting. Same sort of thing. So kind of I was on a sort of off year, every 2 years basis, which means that I didn't get his 2012 car, but I got his 2013 one. And this is the one Gen 6 of his that I think has been made in this scale. Because, of course, in 2014, he ran some races as an R&D driver for Michael Waltrip Racing, but they didn't make that. Of course, he also substituted for Tony Stewart as well. But this is his one Gen 6 model. Same sort of cat livery on it. Slightly different design on it now, with more sort of red flashes on it. You can see him there. A pretty unremarkable year, to be honest, for Jeff Burton in 2013, but I was still very sad when he announced he was pretty much retiring. It was when Richard Childress Racing said he was hiring Ryan Newman for the 31 instead, and Jeff Burton said, you know what, I'm not going to be looking for more rides now. I'm kind of happy to wind my career down now. And it was a sad moment. I remember when I announced it and I kind of was in a total sort of shock. And as I say, that's why I've been sympathetic all along to the Jeff Gordon fans who have had that this year. I know where you are. I know how you felt, because that was me in 2013. And there was a great... His last hurrah for me, really, was the New Hampshire race, which Brian Vickers won. I think he finished 2nd or 3rd in that one. And he led quite a bit of the race. And it was just like one last flash of Jeff Burton for old time's sake. You know, one more time of feeling. And I just remember watching that race, but getting so excited. I was like, yes, this is like being a classic Jeff Burton fan again. It was just awesome. And I remember really, really enjoying that race. But, you know, at the end of the year, and he went kind of quietly, retired quietly. This is the way he does things. He's the mayor. He's very dignified. Calls it how he says it, but not in a sort of brash, controversial kind of way. He was a driver that everyone always respected, still does. And, you know, that's probably why he makes such a great TV pundit. Because, you know, when he talks about NASCAR, you listen, because he really does know what he's talking about. And I really know how to grammar. So that's all my 1/64 diecast that I have of Jeff Burton. Let's take a look at the Big Daddy. Now this is kind of my computer guardian. This one sits on the top of my computer on my desk. This is his 2005 Cingular wireless Chevrolet, the 31, his first full season with RCR. Now, I bought this a few weeks ago from Race Gear UK. I bought it from them because, you know, they supply me with 1/64 diecast, but I think I'd be taking the mickey somewhat if I expected them to give me a 1/24 for the free, just because I like the driver a bit. Well, until the day I get so ambitious that I'm making stop motion 1/24 scale diecast, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. I mean, this is a great model. This is your standard action 1/24 scale model. It's got the opening hood, which is refusing to cooperate with me right now. It's supposed to open, and it does open. There we go. There, got it. There you go. That opens. You got the rear trunk or boot that opens. The engine's got some nice detail in it, you can see in there. And then around the back, you've got the standard detail. It's got the roof flaps on the top that open as well. So it's a standard model from the era, which means it's a really nice quality model, and it is one of my favourites. It's a Jeff Burton diecast, of course it is, and this one means a lot to me, because as I say, this is one of his most colourful liveries. And how nice is it, you know, having gotten into Jeff Burton and been a fan of his because I loved the paint scheme on the first car of his I owned. He then moved to another very colourful car that I love the livery of that as well. So I think the thing is with Jeff Burton, the more colour he had on his car, the better he was. You know, because you look at the later days at Roush, his car wasn't quite as zingy as before, that's a technical term. And he wasn't quite successful. But when he had pink on the car, he was winning a lot and he was nearly winning championships. Same with RCR. Bright orange car, really good Jeff Burton. Slightly duller black and yellow car, not quite so good. So that was the rule of thumb for Jeff Burton's car. So if he ever makes a comeback, put him out there in a bright neon green and pink car. Actually, that's Team Hard colours. Team Hard, give Jeff Burton a ride, he'll win a race, because your car colours will suit perfectly. There you go. So in my mind, Jeff Burton's now running in British touring cars next season. That'll be a sight to behold. But for now, as I say, he is on NBC as one of their pundits. It's been great listening to him this year. I've been a big fan of his, and you know, this video for me is my personal thank you to my Jeff, if you will. You know, everyone's been saying thank you, Jeff, to Jeff Gordon this year. And I understand your feeling. I know that feeling because 2 years ago I had that, and it's still a little bit weird, you know. And since then I did have to try and find a new favourite. I did, in the form of Kurt Busch, which is a little bit strange because I've watched Kurt Busch for as long as I'd watched Jeff Burton. They were teammates at Roush. Never really was a fan of his back in the day, but I don't know. Seeing Kurt Busch's kind of redemption and moving back into that awesome-looking Haas 41 car, which is it's just badass on wheels. Seeing that redemption sort of come full circle, I was like, yeah, I like this guy. You're my new guy now. And of course, I always like AJ Allmendinger. I liked him as soon as he came in. It was in 2009 when he ran the blue and white Valvoline number 44 car for Richard Petty. It was a part-time car, and he managed to get a top 5 in the Daytona 500 out of it. And I was like, again, nice-looking car. And I was like, who's driving that car? Hang on. He's called AJ Allmendinger. AJ's my initials. I like this guy. So it's gone on from there. And as I say, when he won Watkins again last year, one of the first times I've had tears in my eyes watching a guy win a race. No joke. Similar sort of redemption story. Thinking that it may all have counted for nothing in Allmendinger's career with that all the nonsense that went down in 2012. You know, that's what I like in NASCAR. Those are the sort of storylines I like, NASCAR. Those sort of ones that happen on their own. You know, sometimes reality is stranger than fiction, and no matter how many storylines you can write, and hey, I talk as someone who writes my own novels and poetry and fictional writing. I'm a creative writer myself, and I love it. But sometimes, if I've learnt one thing in working in motorsport, sometimes reality really is stranger than fiction. And that's true of some of my favourite stories in sport, including with Jeff Burton, AJ Allmendinger, Kurt Busch. It's one of the reasons we're all here, I guess. Everyone has their favourite story about their driver. And let me know in the comments below. Tell me your favourite driver. Tell me who your favourite driver of all time is. Maybe has been. You know, maybe if you are a Jeff Gordon fan, let me know. Let me know what got you into him. I'm interested. I want to see how many people got into their favourite driver based off their car. I want to know that. Or maybe it was a family thing. As I say, I always quite like Bobby Labonte because my uncle was big into him. Same as Sterling Marlin with my dad. You know, I want to know if there was a family thing there. I want you to tell me the story. All about how your life got flipped turned up. No, not that one. I want you to tell me the story about how you became a fan of your favourite driver ever. And if you are a Jeff Gordon fan, or if you have had a driver of yours retire, who have you switched to, and how did you come about that? I really want to hear your opinions on this, and I really want to hear your stories about it, because I think it's one thing that unites us all as fans and lovers of sport, racing, and NASCAR in general. So this has been video number 301 on Team Bomber Sports. It's wonderful to get past this milestone. Video number 300, yeah, must have felt like the last one, by the way. It suddenly went quiet afterwards. Everyone must have been like, oh, wait, no, not the end now. Well, I did say we're only just beginning at 301. Oh, yes we are. And you're going to see a lot of stuff. On Wednesday, I'll be bringing you the latest adventures from the world of NASCAR. They had a great race recently in the NASCAR Fans UK 300. You're going to see all of that. And then next week, we're going to be on with some more 2015 Diecast reviews, wrapping up the year. We've got an Xfinity special. We've got a Carl Busch special. We've got a Jeff Gordon special for you Jeff Gordon fans. I'm saying a thank you to him as well. He wasn't one of my favourite drivers, but Jeff Gordon is a legend and a legend of the era that I have watched NASCAR. So I owe him the biggest debt of respect as well. We've got Diecast reviews coming. And of course, we have the unveiling of the Manston Raceway, the Turn 8 200 and the Great Britain 500. To say I'm excited to bring those races to you on YouTube is a bit like saying the Titanic was a mildly big ship or a mildly big boat. That's kind of the level we're talking about. See you next time, Bombers, and thank you, Jeff Burton.